Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Trish Tierney.
And I'm Heather Ramsey.
And we're the co-founders of Wake. And we're really excited to talk with all of you today about our initiative called Tech2Empower USA. So thank you for taking the time to join us. And we have a lot to get through in the next hour. So we'll have some time at the end for question and answer, but you can also post a question in chat and we'll try to address that as we go along. But thanks for being with us today. So our info session today is targeted at all of you who are interested in being volunteer advisors with our program, Tech2Empower USA. We are doing a project in March through Tech2Empower USA. We're going to do an impact challenge for women's rights and social justice. And this is what we're going to cover in the next hour. We'll tell you a little bit about the program, and then we'll get into some of the details about how you can actually get involved, what kind of role an advisor can have, how you can form teams, some fundraising goals and timelines. And then we're also going to share with you examples of projects that we are getting in our applications from the nonprofits that you would be helping impact through the work that you would volunteer to do. And then we'll also tell you a little bit about next steps between now and March, and really how you can get ready and be leading your team or joining a team. And then we'll take your questions. So what is Tech2Empower USA? I know some of you that are online with us have been volunteers and already know us quite well, and some of you have traveled with us to other countries or been part of Tech2Empower USA in the past. But for those of you that are new, we're really excited to have you joining this community. Tech2Empower connects teams from social justice and women's rights organizations. So those are nonprofits that are all across this country working on the front lines of social justice issues, really doing great work in their communities to advance and maintain the rights that we have. And we connect those inspiring leaders with people like you who are interested in using the professional skills and resources that you already have to really make an impact on those rights-based organizations. And in March, we're going to bring those groups together to work on some projects that will help advance the social justice and women's rights organizations. So the event will take place in March. The 50 women's rights and social justice leaders will actually arrive here in San Francisco a little bit earlier. They're going to be with us for 3 full days. So on March 6th, we'll have a separate day of training and a workshop and community building with just the nonprofit leaders. And then on the 7th, we'll be at YouTube all day doing a training with them on video production and editing and distribution. And then that evening is when all of you could get involved. So on the evening of March 7th at 5:30, we're going to bring all of the volunteer advisors. There's going to be about 100 of you with the 50 or so social justice and women's rights leaders. And that's going to be a really fun community event to kick off your engagement with the nonprofit teams. It will be a chance for you to learn about the issues that they're working on. So that each nonprofit team will do flash presentations to talk about their issues and their communities. So you'll get to learn about what's going on in many different parts of our country. And then it'll also be a fun evening to meet about 100 other social justice-minded tech and communications folks from not just the Bay Area. We're maybe gonna have teams from New York and from Seattle and from different areas as well.
Yeah, and that event on the evening of March 7th will be in San Francisco. The exact location is TBD, but it will be in San Francisco.
Yep. And then on the 8th is International Women's Day, and that's the really exciting day where you all come together, roll up your sleeves, and work with a nonprofit team. So we'll talk a little bit later about how you'll be matched, But on the 8th, you'll be working with one nonprofit. They will have identified a project that would be really helpful to them. So we're reviewing applications now, but the teams from the nonprofits are identifying what they need help on, and then you will get the chance to use your skills to help them with those projects on that whole day. And it's a great way to celebrate International Women's Day and really take action yourself. And then once we wrap up the work, we'll have an International Women's Day celebration that evening. And that whole day on the 8th will be at the Google Community Space in San Francisco. So what do Tech2Empower advisors do? That's why you're here. So we're going to tell you how you can get involved.
Yeah, so Tech2Empower advisors, the role of Tech2Empower advisors is to share their skills and contribute to moving the needle, to advancing social justice and women's rights by supporting nonprofits and the leaders of these organizations in their work. So the work that you would contribute as an advisor would advance what they're already doing. You know, these are people who've been doing this work for a long time. They know their communities, they know what's needed, but they don't always have the same resources as what's needed. And so they look to Tech2Empower to provide experts who are the advisors to help them with projects, specific projects, which we'll get into in a bit, and to identify the best technology and communication tools and resources to help them amplify their work. So all of you are probably wondering, am I a good fit to be a Tech2Empower advisor? And our answer is yes, probably, because all of you have amazing skills that you apply in your everyday work that can be transferred to support the work of nonprofits and social justice leaders. So if you are working in tech, whether it be as an engineer or as a marketing person, you might be in finance, you might not work at a tech company, you might work at another type of business or communications company, then you're probably a good fit for this program because you each have unique skills that can support this work. And a lot of times it's not that these leaders don't have the skill sets, it's that they don't always have the time, you know, so that the advisors are really another set of hands or minds in this case. So we need advisors who have a wide range of skills. So if you have any doubt, you can certainly write us with a question about your skill set, but we're looking for everything from digital strategies, communications, marketing, branding, business strategy, long-term planning, web design, user experience, using productivity apps in the cloud, even coding. There might be some opportunity for coding, though this is not a coding focused event, but we can talk a bit more about that. And then presentation skills and pitching skills is something that they're also looking for. There have been organizations who've asked for help developing a pitch deck for their organization. So that's a lot of information, but we'll get into a few more specifics about the type of projects in a moment. All right, so now, yes, we're going to talk about the projects. So the projects are proposed by the nonprofit organizations who have applied for Tech2Empower. And they're allowed to propose more than one project, and they come from a wide range of backgrounds. So let's get into some examples to give you a better feeling. So right at this moment, we're reviewing the nonprofit projects requests. So just to give you an example of the kind of projects, because this is where it gets really exciting. So we have an example right here from a San Francisco organization, actually. Most of the organizations are coming from across the country, but we have one here in San Francisco that's applied, the Equal Rights Advocates. This is a really important organization working on legal rights for women in the workplace, on campus, and beyond. So they have an incredibly exciting project. They are launching the nation's first pro bono legal network for survivors of campus assault. And so they want help creating a marketing strategy for this new service that they want to offer to women and men and survivors of sexual assault across the country and make them aware of this great service. So that's one project from our neighbor here in San Francisco. Then from all the way across the country in Tennessee, in Appalachia, we have an organization called the Highlander Education Center. And they've actually been working in Appalachia since 1932. And their focus is on racial justice and creating spaces in their community and education opportunities for activists and community members to learn about social and racial justice and advocate for it. So they want something to help them track the impact of their stories through the lens of activists in their communities so they can share their stories more widely. So this is more of an administrative system that they're proposing for a project. I'll give you a couple more examples later, but that's just to get you an idea of what we're hearing from these organizations about their needs. So we're reviewing the projects now, and in February, we'll be sharing with confirmed advisors. So you're going to hear a little bit later in the presentation of how you can sign up to be an advisor to support these groups. And once you sign up, then we'll be in touch in early February to actually, we'll list all of the projects that are coming in all of the organizations. And you'll have a chance to go into the form and rank in terms of your interest in the work they're doing, but also your skill sets as a match for the types of projects and the skill sets needed for the projects. So that'll be pretty exciting to actually get to see them all and give your input on where you think you would fit in best. Then we will match each team of advisors with one of the incredible nonprofits and their project. And then as you know, March 8th, International Women's Day, is the big day when you'll be all coming together to do hands-on work on the project with your team. And of course, as Trish mentioned earlier, you'll be meeting them the night before on March 7th for the first time, and you'll get to hear about what everyone's doing, and it should be a very inspiring evening. So the project categories, we've already discussed them a bit, but they're here. But it's really a wide range. So don't think for a second that you don't have something to contribute. Okay, so Trish, I think you want to share a little bit about this?
Yeah, so we are looking for teams of 5. So we're calling each impact team is a group of 5 friends or colleagues who want to join together to volunteer. And each team can have 5 people and have a diverse range of skills so that we can, get the skills needed to help support all those great projects that Heather was just talking about. The other commitments for each team is to participate in that evening event on Thursday, which is going to be really fun, but it's also important because we want Friday to be a really powerful work day. And so we think it's very important that everyone get together the night before to meet and connect so that you can really dive right in on Friday and get the most out of that work day together. And then we're also asking each team to fundraise. So the way that we're able to do this work and to bring all these groups here is by asking for your help in raising funds. And so we ask each team of 5 to raise or donate $2,500 collectively. And then if your company does offer a matching program, to seek matching grants to double the impact. To make a team donation of $5,000. Now, if you're at a company or if you're an individual or you work at another type of organization that does not offer the matching program that some larger companies do, then raising and donating the $2,500 is great. But when the matching's available, to get that double the impact is really powerful and helps us to support the nonprofits even more. Now, teams can include 5 friends from one company, or if you want to reach out to friends at other companies, it's also a really fun way to spend the day together and to collaborate with friends from other organizations. And, a lot of our work really focuses on women's rights. And so very often people ask us if male allies are welcome, and we want to just very strongly make it clear that yes, male allies are welcome, and that this is a volunteer opportunity that's open to everyone. And the more diverse our group of volunteer advisors, the better for everyone, because the nonprofits coming are going to be really diverse, and we'll all benefit from a really rich group of volunteers and participants, so that we can really learn from each other.
So I'm going to share a bit about leading a team or joining a team and how to decide what's right for you and what that entails. Before I do that, though, we just received a note on the chat that there were maybe 30 of you who were on a different call line or a different link. And I'm not sure how that happened, but it sounds like some of you missed the beginning. And thank you for letting us know. I think what we'll do is do a quick recap towards the end. I think that's so that the people who were here, who didn't have that confusion at the beginning, or are able to hear all of this information and can drop off if they want. But we are also repeating quite a bit. So what you really missed is the intro and the timeline, which we'll go into, and it is repeated here.
And we're recording this. And so after we finish here, we'll definitely share the link out. So if anyone missed the beginning, they can review.
Yeah. Okay. So leading or joining a team. So that is really up to you, and we welcome you to indicate either option or both when you fill out your application, and we'll let you know what's needed the most. Leading a team could mean one of two things. It could mean that you have individuals, friends, colleagues who you want to bring into your team of 5, and you've already kind of figured out you want to work together, and so you want to lead a team. A second option for leading a team would be that you want to be a team leader in that you want to take a leading role. You want to be the one communicating with Wake and leading the communications with the nonprofit. But you actually want us to assign team members for you, and we can do that as well. Or the other option is to join a team. And you could join a team with someone you know, so have a team formed in advance, or you could let us know that you're open to us assigning a team for you. So we will look at your skill set, we'll look at your interests, and then we'll decide where you fit best in. So that's a complicated way of saying there are 2 options. Leading a team, joining a team. You can have your team set in advance, or we can assign. And that's that. And we will talk a little bit more about how you indicate that in the application. All right.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we're asking every team of 5 to raise or donate the $2,500, which helps us to create this experience and bring these nonprofits to the Bay Area for training and community building. We're asking for matching grants. I know there's quite a few Googlers on the line, and I know that lots of other companies offer matching grants. So we'd love to double the impact if you can get those matching grants. For those of you that are new to fundraising or not sure how to go about that, we often provide online training and tips on fundraising or crowdfunding. We use Classy as the platform that we use for crowdfunding, and we can help you really easily create a page. If you'd like to do that, we can be in touch about that. And we also can connect you to other advisors in the past who have been successful with fundraising And so happy to have follow-up conversations with anyone about how to get started. The team donation is due February 28th. So we will go through the timeline more when we wrap up today, but the matching and all of that, like the matching can come later because we know that, you know, once you submit your paperwork to your company, that takes time, but the $2,500 is due by February 28th. And yeah, we just want to thank you for considering this and for being willing to fundraise on behalf of this program, because we really couldn't do this without you, and it's going to have an amazing impact on the social justice organizations that participate.
Great. So there was a question on the chat about whether, if you have a team of 5, if they could each donate 500 and then get matched. And yes, that is definitely one way to do it. And so if you're joining, let's say you decide you want us to assign you a team based on your skill sets and interests, but it's not a team that you've formed with people you know, then that is for those teams, the best option is for each individual on the team to fundraise on their own, unless you and your team decide to do it another way. So that's one way. And then we had another question about whether teams could be larger than 5 people. So it's possible, and we can certainly consider those circumstances. We don't want to make them too much larger than 5 people, and that's because the nonprofits who are coming, the maximum number of people that they'll have would be 3. There may be a local organization who might bring 4. But we don't want the advisor teams to outnumber the nonprofit team members too much. So an option, if you have a lot more than 5 people interested, is what we would recommend is form 2 teams. There was a question on the chat. She says, well, my team is larger than 5 at work, and I want us to do this together. And that's an awesome idea because, you know, it's a great bonding experience, and really, you know, to make a difference together could be really good team building exercise. So we would encourage you to consider breaking up into maybe 2 teams. If there are like 10 of you, for example, or 12, you could break up into 2 teams or even 3 teams. And then you have the experience together of doing the work. You'll be at the events together, and then you can each share what you did. So, but if you have this circumstance, just reach out to us and we can consider it, and we may match you with one of the larger nonprofits if you have a larger team. We'll try to be as flexible as we can.
And Heather, there was another question on the chat about what if one or more team members cannot attend and participate on the 7th in the evening event. And yeah, that is okay. You know, the 8th is really the important day of service. But if, you know, ideally everyone would come on the night of the 7th, but if a couple of people on a team can't, it's okay as long as some members of the team can be there to meet the nonprofit that you've been matched with, and then you know, everyone can participate on the 8th.
Great. Thanks, Trish. So there was another question about teams and how many teams are we accepting? Okay, so right now, we're in the process of selecting the projects. So we don't have an exact number yet because the teams will be matched 1-to-1 with the projects, but we are anticipating that between 20 and 30 teams will be selected because that's how many nonprofits we'll be bringing. Okay, so I shared a little bit about a couple of the nonprofits who would be here, and so we thought we'd share a little more, and this is more of an overview of the women's rights and social justice focus areas. So these are their primary focus areas at their organization. Of course, a lot of these areas overlap with one another, but we ask them to identify their top priority focus area. So you can see those on the screen, but it looks like the top areas are women and girls leadership, violence against women and girls, so combating that obviously and preventing it and providing support services. Racial justice, reproductive rights and health are the top. There's also a 17% that fall into other. So those are lots of different rights issues that people have included as a primary issue area. Okay, so let us share a couple of more examples. So here's an application we received from the Muslim Women's Organization this is in Florida. And so the project that they're proposing, so they've been doing a re-examination of Islamic texts at their organization to look at gender equality under Islam. And so now that they've done that, they want to create a campaign, a digital campaign to tell stories and to provide education and awareness about women's rights under Islam. And so this would reach Muslim women across Florida. And they just need help with their storytelling and messaging and marketing and digital strategy. And I don't have a slide for this, but I do want to share this other example because it's also really cool, and it's a different focus area. It's an organization called CHEERLA, and that's the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights in Los Angeles. And so they focus obviously on immigrant rights and advocacy for immigrants. And what they want to do is they want help creating a digital strategy and guide, which would provide steps for them in a crisis. So when they need to launch a very quick campaign online to educate, advocate, and organize, as well as raise funds for the crisis that they're dealing with at the moment. And as you can imagine, they've dealt with many crises recently. So that's two examples of these awesome groups that we're gonna have here with us. Okay, we're going to tell you about these future opportunities, and then we'll get back to the overview and questions. So I'll share a little bit about the fellowship, Trish. So this summer, as a follow-on to the Tech2Empower USA Summit that we're having here in San Francisco that you're all learning about, we have a fellowship opportunity, and this is to support these organizations who are with us and others more on a longer term basis with their projects, and also to provide an opportunity for advisors and volunteers like you to learn more about the communities they're working in and about the challenges that they face in those areas. So for example, you see here in the photo, last summer we traveled to New Orleans to work with the New Orleans Abortion Fund. They were one of our fellowship recipients there, and this is our team. We had a small team of advisors from YouTube, and during the fellowships, we spend a good deal of time visiting local community social justice groups, learning about the challenges in the community, because there's always, we were focused on reproductive health and justice and access to reproductive health care. However, there's so much overlap with other social justice issues like inequality and racism and income issues, income inequality, low minimum wage, things like that. They all overlap. So we spent some time learning about Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath and racial issues that they face in the community. We visited an anti-slavery museum at an old plantation, and several other groups. And here you see us at Planned Parenthood in New Orleans. So it's a really in-depth experience where you get to meet community leaders and learn about the issues, and then you get to spend in-person time working on a project with the organization, the local organization that's hosting us. So that's the fellowship, and it'll be coming up in September, and then also probably throughout the fall. And you'll hear about that as an advisor participating in March.
Thanks, Heather. And then just to share a little bit that we do also, in addition to the work that we're really proud to be doing here in the United States, we also have Tech2Empower programs in other countries. And our most recent trip was to Peru, and we had a great group of 20 women who traveled with us to Peru, and we worked on women's entrepreneurship. We did a lot of project work similar to what we're going to be doing here in March, where teams of advisors were attached to a woman entrepreneur. And then we also did work on girls' education and introducing technology careers and mentors to various ages of girls in Cusco and the wider community there. And so we're going to be doing a similar trip to that in May. We'll be going to Rwanda. Again, it'll be focused on supporting women entrepreneurs and girls' education in Rwanda. And the advisor application for that will go live on February 4th. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out for information to come. And then we'll do a second trip in 2019 in the fall. It will be either in October or early November. And we're still discussing with partners in various countries the content and destination of that trip. So we'll be announcing that on February 4th as well. And if you're interested in that, we'll make sure to share out that information.
Great, thanks. We have a bunch of questions that have come into the chat, and feel free to add any questions you have. But first, we'll just take you through the next steps, and then we'll get to your questions. And this, again, for those of you who missed the first 10 or 15 minutes, I think some of this will answer those questions for you as we kind of review. So next steps. The next step after this call is you'll receive an email from us thanking you for being here and providing you with a link to the video of this webinar. And then you'll also receive a link to part 1 of the advisor form or survey. So this is where you let us know that, yes, you are ready to commit to being an advisor for a Tech2Empower USA Impact Challenge for Women's Rights and Social Justice in March. You'll give us your general contact information and let us know whether you're interested in being a team lead, to joining a team, or perhaps both, that you're open to both. And so that's due on January 31st. And that'll give us a real indication of how many teams we have and how many team leads we have. And then in early February, after we receive your volunteer commitment form, then we will be back in touch with you with a link to this part 2 of the form, which will have all of the nonprofits listed with their projects, links to their website. And you'll actually have a chance to rank the nonprofit projects in terms of your interests and your skills to support those projects. So that's a really an interesting opportunity for you to see all the groups that are coming and to let us know where you think you would fit in best. You'll also get to tell us a little bit more about your background and skills in general in that survey. So that'll be due February 15th. And then at the end of February, that is when the team donation is due to Wake, so that we can then support the teams who are coming and the work. So that's February 28th is when the team donation is due. Then by March 4th, you'll be matched. If you already have your team together, then you know who your team is, and then you'll be matched with the nonprofit and the project. If you're not assigned to a team yet, it's at that time when you'll be assigned to the other team members, as well as the nonprofit and project that your team will be working on. So that's by March 4th. And then just a few days later, you're going to actually get to meet them all in person on March 7th at the community event in the evening. And then the Impact Challenge is on the 8th. And then we all get to party and celebrate the wonderful work you've all done together.
And I saw a question about whether two like fundraising related questions. And one was, what if the team does not raise the $2,500? Would the funding be returned to the donors? We definitely hope that if you commit to forming a team and that you'll be able to meet your commitment of $2,500 donation. If you don't, we'll talk about it. But we definitely would hope that by that date of February 15th, that you would have a good sense of if you're going to reach your goal or not, and whether or not we should move forward with matching you with a nonprofit, because we don't want to turn away other teams if and we also, the last thing we want is to disappoint a nonprofit. So if we match you after that February 15th date, that's when we're going to be working on the matching. So if it looks like it's not going to work out, we would just want to know by then. But we'll take that on a case-by-case basis and definitely help you all we can with your fundraising needs. And then another question was, if the team was larger than 5, does the donation amount go up? No, each team is a $2,500 commitment. And then, we would like to keep the teams to 5, but if, it turns out you have 6 people instead of 5, and there's a nonprofit that has a large team as well, and that can work out in the matching process, then that would be fine. And again, we'll take that on a case-by-case basis.
Mm-hmm. So a couple other questions. Okay, so one is related to the skill sets. So we have a question about software engineers, that many people on the line may be software engineers. And do the nonprofits need coding and IT and software engineering help? Or is the tech here mostly around social media, website, and digital strategy? So that is a great question. And, through our other Tech2Empower programs, our experience has been that engineers have a lot to contribute beyond the coding aspects of their expertise. And so we may have a coding project or two. I did see a couple in the project applications, which we just have received. And so there were a couple that may require some engineering or coding, or where that skill would be very, very helpful. But I would challenge the engineers out there that you're like amazing professionals, and that you also have many other skills to contribute beyond your engineering expertise. And so I wouldn't hesitate to think about the other skills that you have and could contribute. And that engineering actually helps you think about a lot of things in different ways, as you know. So please, engineers, this is an opportunity for you as well. I think we just wanted to emphasize that, for so many of these types of events like hackathons, you have to be an engineer to participate, and that is not the case here. We welcome all different expertise and backgrounds because that's what's needed. But engineers are very warmly welcome. We'd love to have you. There was a question about any recommendations of where advisors should stay so that they're close to the work session. We actually do have some teams. That was from a team leader coming from New York. So we do have some teams coming from across the United States who are bringing their teams here to support the nonprofits. So they're from companies, but they're in other parts of the country. So that's a great question. Probably most people here don't need that information. So we'll just tell you generally there will be at the Google Community Space for March 8th in San Francisco, and that's on the Embarcadero close to the foot of the Bay Bridge. And so we can provide some guidance to individuals coming from other parts of the country at places to stay nearby there. But that's where it'll be, right downtown San Francisco. So it should be easy for everyone to access via BART and public transportation. Then there was a question about the overseas and fellowship trips and the cost. So no, the contribution amounts are different for different trips. So because they include expenses depending on what the trip is. For example, our overseas trips usually include hotel, food, and local transportation for the volunteer advisors. And same with fellowship trips, those can include expenses as well. So the contribution for those trips is different because you're actually covering expenses. And there's a breakdown of what's a donation, what is covering expenses for matching purposes. So we can provide those details for those specific trips in future information sessions or on our website. When we
launch the applications for the 2 international trips on February 4th, that will include the pricing for those. And the US trips, the fellowship trips that we're talking about for this summer, we don't have the pricing for those yet because we don't yet know where they'll be, because that will depend on the groups that come here in March and who needs follow-up support. And so, those trips might be to Appalachia, they might be to Los Angeles. We haven't determined that yet. So the pricing will differ depending on the region.
Okay, great. So the next question is, for the advisor survey, so this is the one coming up on January 31st, does it need to be completed once by a team member, by a team that's already formed, or individually by all team members? That is such a great question. And the answer is, please have each team member complete that form, because it asks for things like your social media handle and some things that it might, your LinkedIn profile, and a few things that maybe your team lead might not have the answer to. So we figure it's easier for each person to just go ahead and fill out. It's really quick. It'll take 5 minutes. And then we have your information and we know it's correct. The second part, similarly, this is about your own personal interests and your knowledge of your skill sets. So again, that will have to be completed by each individual team member, but you'll indicate, if you have a team already, which team you're on both forms. Okay, so then the next question is, what are the exact activities we will do at the NGO after matching? How do we ensure that we offer the most value and relevant skills to the NGO? Okay, well, that is a great question and a very thoughtful question, which we appreciate, because we do want to have you, we do want you to offer the most important skills to these groups, because they're investing their time to be here and they have really limited time. So we want to make sure you do offer what they need, but you never really know for sure what's needed till you sit down with them. So we'll have the project outline, we'll have the skill sets they say they need, and we have the experience of doing this matching before for projects. And so what we've found is that things work out as long as the team is willing to be flexible. The advisor team is willing to be flexible and work together to pull together the resources. And if there's a question that comes up when you're working together and none of you know it, what we've found is everyone's so resourceful, they just ping a friend and they say, hey, do you know whatever the question may be that they're not aware of the answer? And usually it's about, a tool that they're planning to use for the project. In terms of the exact activities, so the activities are, we can go back, since some people missed the first slides, and just go back to this. So the first activity, once you've been assigned to your team, you'll meet the team online just via an email. We'll do an introduction for you. You will have a web page, a Google site page with information about the group you're working with, the project, the rest of your team members, with contact information, everything you need. So you'll have that, but you won't have a lot of time to communicate with them before you actually meet in person on March 7th. So this is the first chance to meet in person at 5:30, March 7th. That's Thursday night. And that'll be when each group gives a flash presentation or a quick presentation about their work and where they're from and their projects. So you'll get to hear from them, and then you'll get to connect with your team and all, say hi to each other, talk a bit. If you have time or want to, you can talk a bit about the project and what you're going to do the next morning together. Then on March 8th, you'll come together. And again, this is at the Google Community Space in San Francisco on the Embarcadero. We're going to encourage you actually to get there at around 8:30 if you can, so you can get settled, say hi, just have a relaxed start to the day. But then at 9 o'clock, you're going to start working on the project. And so you'll be working hands-on the project all day. You'll bring your computers, we'll have, flip chart paper, all of that kind of stuff. And you'll come up with a plan for the day, and then you'll start working so that you can, at the end of the day, have something that's useful for the organization to take home with them. So each project, obviously, they're going to want probably more than you can do in a day, so that you'll narrow that down at the beginning of the day. What's the priority? Let's get this done. And then you get to party that night.
And in terms of the specific activities on that day, the 8th, as Heather said, each project's going to be very different, and each team will be different, but will provide some guidelines and some facilitation throughout the day to say, like, okay, this, in the beginning, there's going to be some discovery, and getting to know each other. And so you'll spend some time with your nonprofit team you'll have the outline of the project, but you'll have time to ask them questions. And a lot of the skills that we need on these teams, it's problem solving. And I think all of you have already shown that you're interested in making a change. And so dedication to that and to being a problem solver is probably the most important skill. So you'll sit down and you'll ask them a ton of questions and really learn what they need, more than just, the project and the paper that we've given you. And so then together you'll be designing the day, but we will be facilitating and providing some guidelines and some guiding questions. So it's not really activities so much as it's like a full day of coaching and discovery and problem solving together.
Okay, we have a few more questions which we're going to get to, but before, because I know some people need to drop off, we just want to, just as a reminder of why we're doing this and why you joined us today. I'm sure there are lots of benefits to participating, not only for the nonprofits who are coming that we're supporting and helping, but for the advisors as well. And so just to recap, you'll get to learn firsthand about social justice and women's rights issues. And you'll get to learn from these courageous leaders who are literally working the front lines every day to protect our rights and the rights of people in their communities. You'll get to have a cool professional development experience that will feel like, a real contribution and meaningful. And you'll get to meet people, like-minded people from around the country, not only the nonprofits that are working on the issues, but also people working in tech and business and communications like yourselves. You'll get to make a real contribution to these organizations and build alliances with the people you work with and the other advisors. And it's going to be a really fun way to celebrate International Women's Day and feel like you actually made a difference. All right. So that's why to get involved. And then from one of our advisors who was from Google, Miriam, came with us actually on a Cambodia trip where we did similar work with nonprofits there working on human trafficking issues. And this is what she said, what's on this slide. And while you're looking at that, I'm going to catch up here on the chat so we can answer these last questions. Okay. All right, so for the final questions of Q&A, is there a way to view examples of various projects completed during the 2018 event? Would love to be able to share with my team to inspire and get people excited about this opportunity. Thanks. That's a really great question. So our 2018 event in San Francisco was a bit different, as in that it wasn't project focused. It was more focused on skills building and training. So there was a needs assessment, and then we tailored specific trainings in tech to the organizations who attended. The project part of it was the fellowship. So we mentioned that we took a team to New Orleans to support a project. So their project was on video making and their video channel on YouTube. So they created like a podcast to educate and share information about social justice issues in New Orleans to promote the intersection of social justice with reproductive rights. And so that was the project. So we had a team of YouTubers who came to New Orleans, and they helped them build out their channel and promote their channel and hone their video producing and recording techniques for that channel. So it's a great question. And we do what I think might be helpful to you, Caroline, thank you for that really good question, is to share some of the projects that we're going to be doing this year, because we do have those now. Like I said, the deadline just passed, so we do need to assemble the projects, which is why that's a two-stage process with the application. The next stage is to rank the projects you're interested in. So what we'll do is we'll put together a sample of, say, 5 projects that will be going on this year as inspiration, and share those all with all of you as soon as they're available. And then you'll have that you can share as you're recruiting team members and inspiring them. So hopefully that will help.
And then I saw Marina asked if these nonprofits are 501c3. So, and if donations would be able to write off on taxes. Our organization, Wake, is a nonprofit, so the team donation that comes to us is tax deductible. And then if let's say you work with a nonprofit for the day and you're really inspired and you want to donate to them additionally, then yes, all the groups that are coming, one of the requirements is that they're a nonprofit, a 501c3, based in the United States. So that's definitely possible.
So the next question, there was a question about whether everyone on this call would be interested in sharing emails so you can get to know each other and possibly form a team. So I think what we can do is maybe put a question on the first form that you fill out with your contact information saying you want to do this and whether you're interested in being assigned to a team or you already have a team. So that form, which is due on the 31st, we can put a place in there where you say, yes, I want to connect with others who are signing up, and get your permission to share the email addresses in a group. So we'll think about what's the best way to connect you all, but probably in some kind of group once we have your permission. The next question is, do advisors tend to stay in touch with organizations after the conference as well? That's optional, but we have certainly found that some advisors tend to connect with, certain organizations and feel strongly about staying in touch and supporting their work. There's also the opportunity through the fellowship program. If you have a great experience and you just feel so inspired and you want to learn more, you can volunteer on a fellowship, and then you really get to know the group and you get to see where they're coming from, because this is their opportunity to sort of see your world as a tech or business person when they come to San Francisco.
Yeah, and we don't require that. We don't require the follow-up engagement, and we also set expectations with the nonprofits that are coming that, we don't want them to come and work with all of you and then be asking you for a lot more. But of course, if if you make that connection and you're interested, I'm sure that would be really welcome. And we have lots of anecdotal stories of advisors continuing to support virtually the organizations with which they work.
So we have a comment. So Jenny says, I love the quote. I think that was Miriam's quote she was referring to. Just this one saying she felt the same way after our amazing trip to Peru together. So Jenny, who's going to be leading the team for the US program, recently traveled with us to Peru. So thanks, Jenny. We feel the same way too. It's life-changing for us at Wake to have the opportunity to work with you all to make a difference, and also to work with these amazing groups. I'm gonna I think I'm gonna turn the video back on so we can at least, are there other questions out there before we move on? Any more questions? All right, so we'll just come back on video so we can say goodbye if there's no other questions. And
we'll be following up with the survey and with the recording. And we're sorry for the technical glitch that happened in the beginning, but hopefully you guys all sorted it out and got on, and you can catch up with the video link. And we really look forward to hearing more from you and hope that you'll consider joining us in March.
Yeah. And if anyone out there is like, I just really want to hear the beginning, just put something in the chat now, and we can stay on and just review the first several slides. We're happy to do that. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording now. And then, so if there's anyone who wants a recap of the first 10 minutes, just type in the chat and we're happy to do it. Otherwise, thank you all so much, and we look forward to hopefully meeting you all and to working together on International Women's Day. Okay, looks like everyone's signing off.
All right, thanks everyone.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.